Hi all, welcome to Cyber Warfare Lab's AWS Cloud Red Team course. In this module, we will discuss about how we can exploit misconfigured IAM. To exploiting the misconfigured IAM, we have to first enumerate few things. Just like in IAM, we have a users, we have a group, we have a roles, and we have a permissions, or we can say policy, which is attached to each users, groups, and role. So that will help us to identify what permission is assigned to what users, what groups, what role, and how we can take advantage of all these things to perform red teaming in AWS infrastructures. So let's first explore about how we can enumerate how many users are there, how many groups are there, how many roles are there, and what permissions they have, what they can perform an action on what resources they can do in AWS environment. So first we are going to perform the enumeration, which is really essential to doing any red teaming environment. So we are going to have a authenticated enumeration. Why I'm saying it's authenticated? Because to enumerate the AWS services or AWS resources, you need at least a valid key as well as secrets. So you need a valid credentials to access this thing. So I'm enumerating through CLI. That's why I need a valid key as well as secrets. So how you got the key and secrets? It comes how you can exploit a developer. So maybe you send a phishing mail, you compromise the developer machines, you got the key from there. But there is a lot more methods to getting the initial access. But here we are following assume breached methodology. That means we already assume that if assumes that attackers already compromised a key and they can use this key to perform any further actions. Now we are going to do is authenticated enumeration in AWS environment. Okay, so you can see here I got a key. I already configured my CLI FIGUI. You can see here you need a access key ID as well as a secret access key, and the reason you no need to define, you can define it, and this will be the by default, and this is all. So you need to configure your CLI before doing any request to AWS resources. Second thing, if you have a key but you need a few writes, just like read-only writes on those services to enumerate the information, just like you need a IAM read access at least on AWS resources, so you can enumerate all the information from AWS. Second thing, suppose if you compromised a AWS access key, but you don't know which this key is belongs to which users, which roles. So how you can get this information? You have to simply call one endpoint. This is called STS endpoint, and you have to specify get caller identity. Sorry. Okay, you can see here the key which is configured in CLI is belongs to this user. This is the user ID, this is the account ID, and this is the username. So it's the keys belongs to admin user, which is part of IAM of this account. So then only you identify that this key is belongs to a user or this key is belongs to a role. So this is the first step you have to do before enumerating further things. Now let's explore, let's enumerate other things there in AWS environment. So first what we are going to enumerate is a list of IAM users. So first we are going to enumerate the users informations. So I don't know how many users are there in that account. So this is a command. You can simply copy this command and you can paste it here. So it will give you the result in JSON format with all list of users in AWS account. So we have a user admin, we have a non-priv, and we have a user USR. So there are three users which is there in this account. Now what next? What will be the next thing to enumerating regarding a users? Let's look at here. Now second thing we are going to enumerate is the list of IAM group that the specified IAM user belongs to. So we have a 3 users, but you have to enumerate about if any of the user is part of any groups. So you have to copy this command. So what is there in this command? You can see here. So currently here we have a 3 users here. Now what next? You have to specify the username. So it will show you the whatever username you specified here. If this user is part of any group, it will be showing here. So you can see here I have a username admin. Let's see if it's a part of any group. Okay, sorry, I think this is like this. So you can see here, 1 minute, and next again you can see here admin group is not a part of any admin user is not a part of any group. Now what next? Another user is non-priv. Okay, so you can see here non-priv user is part of demo group. So this is how you can enumerate other the information about a user which is belongs to which group. Third one, we have a priv user, sorry, USR. Username is USR, which is also part of demo group. So we identify that there are 3 users, and admin user is not a part of any group. Non-priv user is part of demo group, as well as user is a part of demo group. So this is how you can identify it. Okay, this is how you can identify this one. Okay, now what next? List of managed policies that are attached to specified IAM users. Now what we are going to enumerate is what are policy which is attached to these groups. So there are 2 type of policy. One is managed policy and second one is inline policy. So this is the command which will list down all the policy, all the managed policy which is attached to this user. Okay, so I'm going to explain here. Okay, yes, sorry, I have to specify the username. So first I'm specify the admin user, because we have a 3 users. Let's see. So you can see here administrator access, this is the policy name, and this is the ARN, which is a managed policy which is attached to this user. We will discuss about what permission does this policy contain in our policy sections, but here we are only exploring what are policy, either inline policy or managed policy attached to this user. Second one, we have a non-priv user. Let's see what are policy attached to this user. So you can see here this STS assume policy, only one policy which is attached to this user. So there may be multiple policy can be attached simultaneously to a single user. What about third user? And you can see here IAM list user 1 policy attached to this user. So this command is used to list down all managed policy which is attached to a user. Now what about inline policy? So let's see how we can explore about inline policy. So this is a command which will give you the list all the policy names which is embedded in the specific user, the user you specified here. Let's copy from here. You have to specify the username. So we have an admin user. You can see here there is no inline policy embedded in this user, but there is managed policy which is attached to this user. What about uh, another user, non-priv? You can say in non-priv user also doesn't contain any inline policies. What about third user, USR? Yes. So you can see here there is one policy. The policy name is priv ESC, which is embedded in this user. So this is how you can explore about the policy, either managed or inline policy attached or embedded to this particular user. So this is how you can explore about how many users are there, what policy does this attach to this user. In our policy section, we will discuss about what permission does this policy contain. So now let's move to the another enumerations. The second enumerations we have are groups. So in groups, the first what we are going to retrieve is list of all groups. So not user, groups. List of all groups in IAM. So I'm just copying this one, open new tab and paste it here. So it will show you all the groups which is there in AWS IAM. So you can see here this account, in this account we have only one group, which is demo group. Now what next? So the next thing we are going to explore is all the policies, either managed policy or inline policy attached to this group. So this is the command. I'm just copying this command. So it will give a result of list of policy which is attached to this group. Sorry, copying from here. Now group name is demo group. Okay, I have to change this one. Okay, so you can see here we have Amazon S3 full access. So this is the policy, managed policy, which is attached to this group. Okay, now what next? We'll list up all inline policy which is embedded in this group. So this is a command. Just remove AWS 2 from here. Okay, let's copy this command. You have to specify the group name. So I'm using the group name demo group. So there is no inline policy which is embedded in this group. So this is how you can explore about groups, inline policy as well as managed policy which is attached to this group. Now what next? Now we are enumerating about roles. So role is also important part in AWS IAM. So those first command which will list down all the roles there in IAM. So just copy this one, open a new tab, paste it. Okay, so you can see here all the roles which is present there in AWS IAM will be listed here. So you can see here this path, role name, ARN of this role, the principal, trusted entity, which so this will show you that this role is for EC2 instance. The principal will show you what is used for this role. So this role means who can assume this role or what is used for this role. So this is role which is used for EC2 instance. Same like if you see here, this is for session manager, This is for Elastic Container Services. All the roles you can, this is for Elastic Load Balancer. So in principal sections you can see here what is the role for, and we can attach this role only for this principal which is mentioned here. So, and or you can see here only this principal which is mentioned here can assume this role or can use the use this role. So this is how we can divide it. All the list of roles you can see here, all the list of roles which is mentioned here. This is for RDS. Another role, this is for supports. So you can see here all the AWS roles, IAM role, and what is used for. You can see here. You can also see there the ARN of this role. Now what next? So we identify a list of all the roles, what is used for this role or who can assume this role. Second thing is again the same policy which is attached to this role. This is really important to understand. Why? Because if we know what permission does this contain, we can exploit it if we found there is any access permissions which is attached to this role. Okay, I'm just copying this one, and you have to specify the role name. So suppose you need only one role name. There is a lot more roles, but suppose I'm just choosing this role, EC2 S3 full access. So this is all. Now I just need to specify the role name, full access. You can see here in this role, this is the policy which is attached to this particular role, and this is, you can see here in the principal sections, this is the role EC2 instance can assume this role. Second thing, we identify that list of all managed policy, but what about inline policy which is embedded in this role. So I'm just copying this one. This is used for retrieve all the policies which is embedded in this particular role. Just copy here, just again copying this role name here. This is how you can enumerate all these things in AWS environment. Okay, let's remove EC2. Okay, so there is no inline policy which is attached to this role. So this is how we can identify the list of users, policy managed or inline policy attached to these users, list of groups, managed or inline policy attached to this group, and list of role and managed and inline policy attached to this role. Now we will discuss about the policy. So we only identify, okay, this is the policy which is attached to this role, but we don't know what actually this policy contains, what permission actually does it have. So that will, we will enumerate in our policy section. Okay, so let's open a new tab, and this is about the policies. So first one, it will give you the list of all the policies there in AWS. I'm just changing this one. Perfect. So now we'll discuss about the policy. The first thing, the command, first we have to identify sorry, we have to identify all list of policies there. Enumerating about the list of policies, what permission does this policy contain? So first I'm going to explore here all the list of policies there in AWS particular account. So you can see here, I'm going here, open a new tab, paste it here. So this will retrieve all the policy which is there in this particular AWS account in IAM section. So you can see here, this is a policy name, this is a policy ID, ARN of this policy, and This is also mentioned that default version. So there is, I think by default you can have a maximum 5 version of policies. So this is the default version which is there in policy. Attachment count, permission boundary, created, updated date, all these things, or if it's attachable or not. So this is how you can explore list of all the policy as well as their default version, because default version or the version is really important. So you have a maximum 5 version of the same policies. These are all the policy which is attached here. And what next? We are going to explore about retrieve the information about a specific managed policy. So there is a two type of policy, managed policy and inline policy. So let's first discuss about managed policy. So this is a command I'm going to explain. Okay, this is a command. Now you have to specify the policy name. So suppose I explore about the users and I found that there is a policy which is attached to this user. Suppose this is the admin user and administrator access. This is the policy which is attached to this user. I'm going to explore about, so I'm just copy this ARN. I will enter here. So this will get the information about the managed policy, maybe attached to a users group or roles. It doesn't matter. You have to specify the ARN of this policy of either a AWS managed policy or a customer managed policy. It will show you the list, the same information which is there in in this section, but it will show you the all list of policy. Here you can specify the policy ARN and get the information about a specified policies. So here you can see their policy name is this one, version is V1, and all the other information, ARN, policy ID, and all other information. Now, as I already mentioned that in AWS, the maximum you can have a 5 version of a policies. So let's check how many version does this policy contain. So here you can see a default version currently V1, but there may be a version 1, version 2, and more versions there. So all the versions which belongs to this policy, let's explore about it. The second thing is lists information about a version of specified managed policy. So we are talking about only managed policy because inline policy doesn't have any ARN. Now just copy here, you have to specify the policy ARN. So this is the policy ARN. It will show you the lists of policy version. So you can see here we have in this policy we have currently one version, and this is the default version. So if we have multiple versions like version 1, version 2, version 3, which is the default version, maybe there may be chance that V3 is a default version. So here it will be sure that V3 is a default version. So this is how you can get the information about version. Why it's really important? Because you have to specify what permissions the policy contain in which version. So there may be chance that multiple versions have a different permissions. Okay, now at the end we will discuss about what actually permission contains this policies. So I'm just copying this one, copy here. You have to specify the policy ARN. So currently I'm specify this policy ARN here, which is attached to a users or maybe it's a group, doesn't matter. Policy version. Okay, I have to copy it again. Get policy version. Get policy version. Yes, this is the ARN. Then we have to specify the version ID as well. It's a list policy version. So let's copy it again. 1 minute. Let's copy this one again. Not this one. Let's copy this one again. Let's paste it here. Here you have to specify the I think it's okay. So you have to specify the, I think it's missed here, policy errand, policy errand. Let me clear this one. Let's copy this one again till here. Let's copy this one. Okay, perfect. Now here you have to specify the policy ARN. So this is the policy. This is ARN. Now you have to specify the version ID. So you can see here currently in this policy we have only one version, v1. If there is more version, you can specify the version ID. So we specified the version ID here. Get policy version. Okay, so you can see here this is the actual permission which this policy contains. Effect means allow, permission action all, so you can perform all the actions, get, list, put, delete. And a resource star means it can perform all the operation on all the resources there in AWS. So this is how it's called administrator access policies. So using this command we can get list of the informations contained inside a managed policy. What permission does this contain? So you need a policy ARN as well as version ID. Second thing, we are going to explore about what is a inline policy does contain. To exploring about the inline policy, we need this one. So these are the command. This is for users, this is for groups, and this is for roles. So you can just, so I'm just going to copy here in the user section. I'm going to copy here in user sections. Now you have to specify the username. So you can, I just go here in user sections. I can see here there is one user that's called user which have true sec user policy name. So username is user and policy name is true. Okay, so I'm just copy here. So as I already discussed, this inline policy doesn't have any, just like ARN, just like managed policy have. So username is specified as USR and our policy name is Priv ESC. Okay, so you can see here what does a inline policy contains. This is also contain a administrator policy. The previous key means this policy contain all the, so you can see here effect means allow all access, what access, actions, put, get, delete if it's a star, and resources is star. That means you can perform all the actions and all the resources across the AWS, a specific account you have. So this is how you can get the information about the policies, what permission does they contain. So this is how we explore or we enumerate the information about users, groups, roles, their attached policy or their inline policy, and what the information or what the permission this policy contains. So this is how you can enumerate a lot of things about a AWS IAM specific. So this is all about this module. Thank you so much for watching this video.